Hi everybody, I'm Angie and I'm here to share with you a little bit about my journey of healing from breast cancer. I was, last June 2020, I found a lump in my left breast. I wasn't looking, I wasn't doing a self-exam, nothing like that. There was no pain. I just felt this sort of like this instinct or intuition to feel in this spot, and I found a lump. And I wasn't expecting to find a lump, and it didn't, I kind of knew right away, right? I knew right away, like, oh, this is not good, because I wasn't somebody who was prone to having fibroids or they call it lumpy breasts, things I've learned about since I've been on this journey of healing from breast cancer, because I've wanted to fill myself up with as much knowledge as I can. So I immediately went to the walk-in clinic and they were really great there. And she started saying, well, maybe it's lumpy breasts or fibroids or whatever. And she says, but we got to get it checked. So she ordered an ultrasound and a mammogram. And they happened really quickly, probably within a couple of weeks. And they came back suspicious. So then I had to go for biopsies. And I went for the biopsies. And then by mid-July, I guess, mid to late July, I met with an oncologist, and he told me that I have cancer. Well, actually, the nurse practitioner told me first. I guess she got all the results back, and then made the referral to the oncologist, who I saw towards the mid to end July. I can't quite remember. In the meantime, before I saw the oncologist, the surgeon called me and said that, he is my surgeon if I need surgery, but ultimately it would be based on what the oncologist said and his recommendations. So I went to see the oncologist, and he told me that I had estrogen-driven aggressive breast cancer. So that if I didn't do something soon, it was just going to continue to grow and grow. At this point, it was very small. I think it was only a centimeter at that point. And then and then he told me that my options were, well, I didn't really have options. This was the course of treatment that he was prescribing for me, was chemo, 8 rounds of chemo, surgery, another like 6 to 8 rounds of chemo, possibly radiation and hormone therapy. And I just kind of went, oh, it was so overwhelming, like so overwhelming. And I thought to myself, well, I need some time to think about this. Like I need to think. And the other thing that went through my mind at that point was that my immune system was tanked. I knew that if I had cancer, that it was because my immune system was tanked. And there were a lot of signs leading up to this point, which I'll talk about in later videos, like those signs that were all there that I ignored. But I knew that I needed, and I also knew that chemotherapy basically wipes out your immune system. So it wipes out all the bad stuff, but it also wipes out all the good stuff. And I knew that I did not want to do chemo with such a depressed immune system as it was at that time. So I decided to take a few weeks, 3, 4 weeks, and get my immune system back in order before I started any kind of treatment. So in the beginning, I was open to treatment. It was not something that I was resisting. I just didn't want to rush, and they do tend to rush you. I think 2 days after I saw my oncologist, somebody called and said, okay, come in tomorrow for a COVID test, and then we're starting your chemo. And I'm like, whoa, wait, what? No, no, I'm not starting that quickly. I need some time. And I really felt it was important that I take that time. And that's not to say that things weren't happening either. The size of my tumor quadrupled in a very short period of time, and it was, getting big and growing. But I still felt I wasn't not ready for chemotherapy. So I knew I needed to get out into the bush a little bit, get into some water, get into a sauna, get into the sun. So these were things that I was, get onto the ground. These were on my mind, so I rented a camp for a few weeks, and my family and I went out, and I just rested. I ate well. I had saunas. I was in the water. I was like in the sun, just I was hugging trees, hugging a lot of trees, because there's something about being out in nature that's so healing, and it started to get my body back into a little bit more of a natural rhythm Prior to that, I think I was a little, it was a very high stress period for me, which is one of the things that does contribute to cancer, of course, is our stress level. And so, yeah, so that's what I did. I went out to the bush with the intention that in a few weeks, I would be strong enough again that I could start chemo. So while I was at camp, I was continuing to eliminate all sugar, all coffee. I don't eat meat, all dairy, just all carbs, everything. So I was basically eating a lot of salads and a lot of vegetables, and I was just eating really well, way better than I had been. My nutrition was, oh, there's Juno. My nutrition before that was really, really off. I was living on oatmeal raisin cookies pretty much. Just because I love oatmeal and I love raisins, so combined, it was like such a great little meal 3 times a day. Not really, I'm exaggerating, but I ate a lot of them. And I wasn't eating well. I was a vegetarian and I barely ever ate vegetables. Like, what's with that, right? I mean, I had maybe 1 vegetable a day, like not a lot. And mostly pasta. I think I was a pastatarian. I love pasta. So I got a lot of tomatoes, but anyways, I digress. So this is what I did. I went out to the bush. I started eating good. I eliminated sugar. I immediately ordered cannabis, full extract cannabis oil, the black gooey stuff, or the stuff that's full plant, because I had been researching a lot previously about the medicinal benefits of cannabis. So I knew that that was something that I also wanted to be taking immediately. One of the reasons why I was knowledgeable about cancer and what to do when we have cancer is 13 years ago, my youngest child became ill. They were 6 years old. They're 19 now. They were 6 at the time, 6 years old. Became ill. There's Juno again. And some weird things were going on. So we went to the hospital, the emergency, and we had to go a couple of times because, the 6-year-old kid, and there was some weird, it was just, anyway, long story. I'm not going to go into it here. It's not really my story to tell. It's my son's story to tell. So, but ultimately, at 6 years old, he was diagnosed with cancer. So as you can imagine, that was devastating. Hearing that I had cancer was like, okay, that's pretty, but I can deal with it much better than when I heard that my 6-year-old had cancer. And it's so hard, eh? Even thinking back, it was 13 years ago, but it's still hard to remember. Now the thing is, we did all the stuff that the doctors wanted us to do for him, and we were doing, just all the stuff that the doctors, like just basically getting imaging, and there was surgery scheduled for down the road and that sort of thing. But also in the meantime, what I did is I called my dad. So my dad is, I'm just checking the time, 8 minutes. I don't want this to be too long, but I want it to be informative enough that you kind of get a gist of where I'm coming from. So I hopped on the phone to my dad, who didn't live in Thunder Bay with in our community. And I told him what had happened. And my dad is a naturopathic expert, I'm going to say. All things natural. He has been into natural healing since before I was born. He was sort of on the front end when all of it really started becoming popular. I think it came from California maybe, or along, the hippies and all that kind of stuff. But he really got into learning about natural medicine and natural healing. So he knew some of the things that I needed to do for my child. And of course, those were like stopping sugar. One of the things we did is we got onto what's called I call it a Budwig diet. Dr. Joanna Budwig is a German doctor from I think the 40s, maybe earlier. She was pretty brilliant. She discovered this formulation of a healthy protein fat with a really healthy oil. So combining the two does something to enhance the health of all of the other cells, but not the cancer cells. And I call it a Budwig diet, and it's a combination of flax oil and quark. Quark is a cheese. It's a kind of cheese. You can get it here in Thunder Bay at Thunder Oak Cheese. That's another whole long story. I'll tell you about all of that in future videos. This is just kind of like a little synopsis. And we got Pete on supplements, and we started doing energy work. No cannabis for him. At that time, I didn't know about the healing effects of cannabis. So what happened over time, within a 5-week time frame with my son, is we were watching like CAT scans and MRIs and ultrasounds and all of that, right? And I was taking measurements at each appointment, especially the ultrasounds, because I just wanted to keep track of things. That, you know, I just wanted to know if it was growing, if it wasn't. And so I was taking measurements, and what we were noticing was that it was starting to get smaller. And so that was pretty thrilling, but it was, you know, still there. But the weekend before, the Friday before we were supposed to go to Hamilton for the surgery, we went for one final ultrasound, because I guess the surgeons there wanted sort of final confirmation of everything before we went. And so I said to the ultrasound technician afterwards, I said to him, I said, okay, I'm taking the measurements. Can you tell me the measurements? This was back in the day when they could give you the measurements. They won't do that now. So I've been asking about my own measurements, and you have to go through the rigmarole of requesting the test results. But so at that point with my son, I said, okay, I'd like the measurements, please. And I'll never forget this. He looked at me and he said, well, there's nothing left to measure. And I'll never forget it, because it was like, oh my goodness, whatever we did it worked. Whatever we did, which was a huge change in diet, the Budwig, some supplements, and I'll tell you all about those. I'm going to have my protocol written out for everybody who wants it, so that you'll have a list of everything. I'll probably do my son's protocol and mine, because I've adjusted mine. I've changed things, you know. You go through this and you change things around a little bit. So that's kind of, so for the past 13 years, I've been studying everything I can get my hands on about cancer, and especially alternative therapies and treatments and that sort of thing. Oh, Juno's ready to go out, so I'm going to wind this down soon. And so that's where I've been getting my knowledge from. So now let's go not fast forward, but we'll go back to where I was now, at the point where I'm done at camp. I'm done being at camp, and it's time now to make decisions. But one of the things I noticed was that I was feeling better. The tumor had stopped growing, and I was feeling better. And I thought, geez, I feel like I'm starting to heal. Not that I was anywhere near an optimal state of health at that point. I was pretty laid out, pretty sick. Couldn't walk upstairs, could barely walk around the block. Couldn't lift anything over my head. For those women out there, or men too, that pluck your eyebrows, I kind of had to I couldn't even hold my hands up. It was really unreal. I had no strength. So at that point, I'm like, I'm feeling better. I think maybe I'm just going to hold off on the chemo for a bit, because now I knew that my son had healed naturally from cancer, and I knew it was possible. I've been studying cancer for many years, and people's natural healings. So I decided just to go month to month. Okay, I'm going to go month to month here. If this thing starts growing, if it gets bigger, I'm going to go do the chemo. At that point, I was still very convinced that that was an option for me. I don't feel that way so much anymore, and I'll get into all of that too as we go through things. But for me now, it's not something I would like to do. I guess, you know, if hands down, if I had to, of course I would. I want to live, and I guess that's something you need to know too. I want to live. I really like life, and and I have, you know, family that loves me and wants to have me around still, and my friends that love me and want me around. So I'm not doing this because I'm sort of crazy or anything. It's just because I'm curious, and I want to inquire into my own body's ability to heal, because I really think that we can do this. So month to month, month to month, month to month is what I would do. And I had, the oncologists weren't happy with me. He was not happy with me at all. He's like, you're a young woman. You need to get this fixed now. We help everybody. And they do. They help a lot of people. But sometimes I have to wonder at what cost. Because, I know a lot of women who heal. If you don't make all of the other necessary changes, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual, the physical, you can take it all out, but if you don't change all the other stuff, and the physical too, like a lot of the physical, like good nutrition and exercise too, it comes back. And often it comes back everywhere. So I'd like to avoid that. So I want to make the changes now that are necessary for long and lasting healing. And that's what's motivating me to do this. So so the oncologist wasn't happy, but he was following me for a while. Like he would order CAT scans and MRIs and ultrasounds so we could kind of track things, make sure it wasn't getting bigger or spreading. It wasn't getting bigger, it got smaller. There's no spreading. But my oncologist now, he doesn't want to see me anymore. So I guess he broke up with me. He doesn't want to see me anymore. He says if I'm not going to follow his course of action. And I mean, I understand that. But I was a little disappointed because I was hoping for some curiosity or maybe some desire for critical analysis to find out what is she doing and is it working? It wouldn't have hurt him to follow me to find out, right? That's the part I'm disappointed with. I understand he's like, whatever, I'm not following his recommendations, but aren't you curious? Don't you want to know? Like, if you had seen me, it's April, May. Oh, yeah, like even 6 months ago, man, like it's like night and day. Like I'm definitely healing. And the lump is still there, but it's gotten smaller and it's changing so this is where I'm at, and this is what I'm doing, and this is the reasons why. And I just wanted to share that with you so that maybe if you're interested, you might want to follow along. Or if you know somebody who might be going through something similar, they might want to follow along because I'm not encouraging everyone to heal naturally. That's not my intention here. My intention is just to share what I've learned and to share what I'm doing. My protocol I'll be sharing with you. I'm eventually going to have it all written out so I can just send it to people who want it. But I also want to talk about it too because I think it's important to know that it's been something that's been, you have to be adaptable. You have to kind of like try new things and see what works and see what doesn't. And because, it can be very expensive healing naturally. And so you want to make sure that you're spending your money wisely. And on that note, I'm just going to mention one more thing, and it's a little bit of a seed planting. Because I find that I've been fortunate enough that I've been able to do this up until now. But I recognize that there are so many people out there that are ill, that don't have the money to eat good nutrition, buy supplements, go for treatments like acupuncture, massage therapy, all that kind of stuff. And there's other things. There's just other things that cost money. And so what I'd like to do is create some kind of something. I'm not sure exactly what that'll be yet, but a foundation or something to help people who can't otherwise afford to heal. Because one thing I can tell you from being unwell, it's the quality of life is difficult. It's really difficult to even have the energy to do things like to cook for yourself and that sort of thing. So and the thing is, I was like that, but now I'm not. So this is the same for lots of people. They might be sick now, but they don't necessarily have to stay that way if they have the proper things in place to help them heal too. And so I'd like to create something. So if anyone has any ideas out there, send me a message, a foundation of some sort. Like, ultimately, I think that everybody deserves to have like an adequate income and the means to live a good quality of life. That's just not the case at the moment. But I know that that's changing. And this is something that I'd like to be part of that change too. So I just want to share it with you because I figure the more people thinking about it and sending those intentions out, the more quickly it's going to happen. So Thanks very much. And if you know people who you think would benefit from this, please do share it with them. And we do have like a kind of like a weekly group of support group that if anyone's interested, if they're going through cancer, it's somewhere that we can connect and just talk. Because sometimes, again, like I said, it just helps with feeling less isolated. So anyway, that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening, and stay tuned for the next one.